This is one of the largest unauthorised traveller sites in Europe. To the 400 travellers who face being evicted, it's home. This eviction in Essex in 2004 is what the travellers fear is about to happen to them. The council say the eviction is purely a planning issue. The travellers own the site but have built on it illegally. Judges have agreed the council have the right to demolish their homes, as they would with any other group of people. But the travellers say their treatment is racist. And on Friday, the UN intervened to say the eviction could be a human rights violation. Irish travellers are historically a nomadic people with their own language and distinctive culture. They say they are stereotyped as dirty and criminal and often discriminated against. Many have now settled, but there is a lack of legal sites, which leads to conflict with local villages.
Bigot, no. For the last 10 years I've had to put up with it. If anyone came here and lived where I've had to live and put up with what I lived for 10 years, I don't think they'd last a week.
In the year 2000, Irish travellers were recognised under English law as a protected ethnic minority, and those at Dale Farm say their eviction is ethnic cleansing.
Forgive us our sins, save us from the fires of hell.
It's not happening. We're here to fight and we're going out fighting.
Does the travellers' alternative lifestyle deserve special protection? Or are they doing something illegal and asking for special treatment? Well, let us know what you think. If you've got a webcam, you can make your point on Skype. You can join the conversation too on Twitter, on phone, on text or by email. The details will all be on your screen. Jake Bowers, editor of Travellers Times, a Romany gypsy, joins us in the studio. Very good morning to you.
Good morning.
Do you think it's racist?
I think it's undeniably motivated by racism to evict that amount of people on the guise of a planning dispute is undeniably racist. And the thing that makes it racist...
Aren't they just enforcing the law?
They are enforcing planning law, but that's a bit of a smokescreen because actually the people, if you go down there, they're prepared to leave. But what the issue that they're fighting is that they shouldn't have to move out of the district. There are other bits of land in that area where they put in planning permission, land which is publicly owned, which Basildon Council could look at. They've refused to look at it. So the thing that is racist is to evict people, to set a quota, which is effectively what Basildon District Council has done, on a particular race of people and say, we have enough gypsies in this area. You would not ever be able to apply that to any other ethnic group. You wouldn't be able to go to Leicester and say, we have enough Pakistanis here, the rest of you need to leave.
Where's your evidence that there is a quota?
I've heard it from Malcolm Buckley, who was the former head of Basildon District Council. I interviewed him on BBC Radio, and he said, we have enough gypsies in our area. And that is a policy which has continued into the current leadership of Basildon District Council.
But that's, I mean, he might be talking about the fact that there is already a welcoming, tolerant attitude to a large number of people from that community. That's not the same as saying there is a quota.
Well, in effect, by default, it is a quota, because he said, and the council has stood by this, that there are already enough, they say, enough gypsy sites in Basildon.
But that, that's what you claim. But that
it's on the public record on BBC Radio. That's what he said.
Okay, but we are talking here about a site which has no planning permission. So that is an enforcement of the law, pure and simple, isn't it?
Well, you have to look at it in the context of the legislative framework which has led to it, which is that nomadic life in this country has been outlawed since 1994. There aren't enough public sites. Getting planning permission on private ground is pretty much impossible. So when you find that your traditional culture is outlawed, yes, you have to break the law in order to survive.
Okay, Richard, so this isn't simply a planning issue. This isn't simply enforcement of the law. There's something much more sinister going on here.
It's a nice move of Jake's, and it's a good move. I mean, I think it is a straightforward planning thing that Irish travellers have been very clever over the years at buying land very cheaply as paddock and then turning it into a building plot. Now, if you and I could do that, we'd be multimillionaires. It's a good ruse from their point of view, and I understand why they want to do it. They want to listen. Hold on.
House builders do that all the time.
No, they don't, because they've got to get planning permission, and they're not. They can only do it in plausible places. Irish travellers do it in deeply implausible places where they would never get planning permission. But the idea that there should be a quota, now, I think there is something in it that people are saying, we've got enough Irish travellers, thank you very much, because this traditional way of life, it's no longer traditional because they're kind of moving, not moving, they're kind of in a hinterland of staying put and not staying put, which makes life for their children in school a nightmare and gives them very poor prospects and so on. But Sure, I think councils are well within their rights to say there is a strict limit to the amount of land and tolerance that our neighbourhood will provide, because this way of life, unlike Pakistanis or others, imposes a real strength. People do not like having Irish travellers near them, and that is not a pretty thing, but it's their right too.
Okay, Jake. And these are separate sites. This is not integration into a community.
This is much, much bigger than Dale Farm. Dale Farm is just the tip of the iceberg. For Romani gypsies and Irish travellers, which are two ethnic groups, living as part of an extended community which can be nomadic is an essential part of their identity, which is not chosen, it's not debatable, in the same way that finding men attractive is an essential part of the identity of somebody who's homosexual. It is a key part of their identity.
It's not unlike a Durham coal miner saying, I've got a right to dig coal forever, and my children
because
as well.
What you're doing is you're equating a lifestyle with an ethnicity, and we're talking about an ethnicity, and living on a site is an essential key part of that identity. You know, you're a right-winger, you should believe in family values. The reason they want to stay there is so that they can look after their old people. You should be down there fighting for them, Richard.
Can I just say that for those of us who actually aren't familiar with this, what's regarded as a lifestyle, my knowledge of travellers and gypsies is from Big Fat Gypsy Wedding, okay? And as far as a traditional lifestyle goes, it didn't look very traditional to me. It looked incredibly... In fact, it seems to be that there's a picking and choosing going on. And when it's useful to be regarded as a traditional ethnic group, then that's... But when you actually want to listen to Christine Aguilera and get married in pink neon chiffon, then all that gets out the window.
Listen, come on,
and I have to say that, and looking at the amount of flat screen TV, the amount of money there appeared to be there. If I was a local person who had wanted to convert a building in my garden into an office and had been turned down, and then I saw Dale Farm, I would be absolutely furious, because the rest of us, it's about fair play.
Yeah, but listen,
the rest of us have to live by certain
you
rules.
putting an extension on your house is not the equivalent of somebody who's maybe terminally ill, as some of these people are down at Dale Farm, having somewhere to live. And listen, if you're drawing your knowledge about my community from Big Fat Gypsy Weddings, then you need to come on a visit with me, and I'll show you what it's really all about, because that was a complete misrepresentation of us.
The point is that there are certain rules that we all have to live by, and it does appear to the outsider that certain among the gypsy traveller communities don't think that applies to them.
Well, let me put that to...
Why are they all in the UK when they're Irish anyway?
Let me put that to Candy Sheridan from the Gypsy Council. Candy, is there a certain amount of opting out of the law, of society, because travellers consider themselves separate?
Absolutely not. Firstly, enforcement is discretionary, so there's no reason at all for Basildon to continue with this sort of massive abuse and an obscene amount of money. It's discretionary. There are councils out there that don't enforce at all. Secondly, Dale Farm, like it or not, was a former scrapyard. We have all the evidence for that, and 1/3 of that site will remain a scrapyard. Thirdly, some of the, like Richard is talking about, he's trying to alienate us as Irish travellers. Irish travellers, everybody at Dale Farm, except for the people in their 70s, hold a British passport. I'm sorry to tell you that. They're British citizens. All the children, 103 children, go to the local primary school, and they will be forcefully stopped from attending school. Their circumstances and their prospects, Richard, will be stopped by Basildon Council, the MP and David Cameron and the Coalition. This is obscene.
Well,
I've put in the planning applications.
Is
We're not above the law. If I could continue, I put in the planning applications. I've worked behind the scenes for 2 or 3, if not 5 years now. I identified the brownfield sites. My applications, Richard, have not even been heard. I've gone for non-determination. I have a public inquiry on November the 22nd. Please let us have a stay of execution. I can find sites for all the travellers at Dale Farms. Everybody is willing to leave. The site is killing them. We've got 4 people in hospital at the moment. It's obscene. People would die because of the pre-stress. There's no doubt about it.
Richard?
Please have some common sense
Canty, thank you.
let me deliver.
Well, the business of being British and playing strongly to an ethnic card is at least a little peculiar. I mean, if you want to claim to be Brit, then get with the British way and maybe live in houses like
Richard,
the rest of us do.
So you're saying you can't be black and British, you can't be Asian British? What a ridiculous thing to say.
You can be, but no other group is pressing for such extraordinary rights.
No other group, Richard, has been so progressively marginalised over the years, where our entire way of life, our culture is completely outlaw.
Now, but hold on. about the business of this school, I mean, I've read the Ofsted report for that primary school, and somebody is failing those kids. They go in not equipped for primary school. They're then moved in and out very quickly. They rotate around so that they've got virtually their own private school there. It should be a wonderful place of education, but because this travelling thing, and because maybe the ideal of education isn't taken very seriously, actually the kids don't do very well. The health prospects of gypsies is not very good. This travelling thing is not awfully good, which is maybe why so many people from this Irish travelling community actually want to do their own bricks and mortar, but they won't do bricks and mortar on the terms that the rest of us have to.
Presumably, the alternative would be to be on the housing list, and that would be something that the council would be able to provide.
Well, as far as I understand from the people that I've spoken to, they have been offered bricks and mortar. Yeah. But for the people that I've spoken to, I remember one particularly gravely ill old lady. She's clinging on to life there in a very horrible situation because she's surrounded by her brothers, sisters, her cousins, her grandchildren. There is an incredibly supportive community atmosphere there. That's the one thing which is probably keeping her alive, to be frank. And she deserves to live as part of that extended family network. If not there, then somewhere else in the district.
Robin Page, sorry, Richard, but Robin Page is chairman of the Countryside Restoration Trust. Robin, is there a danger that people in the countryside are dealing with gypsies as a blot on the landscape, when actually they are human beings who want to, you know, perhaps perfectly reasonably live the way of life that they've chosen?
Well, first of all, you know, I can't live any sort of life that I happen to choose. I have to fit in with society. And the first question that you should ask, and nobody asks, is why are they here? Are there no hospitals in Ireland? Are there no schools in Ireland? If I went to Ireland, would I be able to live wherever I like? The answer is no. In Ireland, it's a criminal offence to illegally occupy land.
Listen, let's deal with this once and for all. Most of those children, most of the people on that site, they were born in this country.
Would you let me?
Well, hang on, Robin. You said that question needed to be asked, so let Jake answer it.
Let me have a say first, because you know, it's a civil offence here, and that is why they're here. The people who are pleased to see them here are the Garda in Ireland. And I've spoken to the Garda in Ireland, and, you know, then you go on and say it's a race thing. It is not a race thing. Their DNA is exactly the same as mine.
Listen, Robin, you may know a lot about the countryside, but you clearly know very little about race or culture. Race isn't defined by DNA, it's defined by culture. Irish travellers and Romany gypsies have entirely separate cultures. I was
invited to speak on the programme, actually, not play tennis with you.
All right, Robin, but it would be fair to allow Jake to answer the question.
I think we should accept that the result of this is going to be very, very messy. It'll be a compromise. The British state, the British people, will cut the Irish travellers more slack, probably, than they ought to, or public opinion would like. So it's going to be messy. But it's not helped, actually, I don't think, by playing this kind of ethnic threatened people card. There's got to be give and take on both sides. It's going to be very messy. Lots of ordinary English people who play by the rules and actually take the pain of the rules are going to be extremely hacked off by the outcome. And I think, frankly, it would become the travellers to be a little bit more kind of graceful in saying, we do play the system.
Listen, from what I've heard, the local council have offered to house those it's legally has to. So there are, if you, for example, if you're a family with children under a certain age, the council will have to provide something. And I suppose, again, speaking from outside this culture, it doesn't occur to me to demand that the council provide me with a home. No, it doesn't. And actually,
but that isn't actually what they're asking for. They're asking for the right to provide their own homes on their own land.
But to be able to do that, they have to get planning permission. If they don't get planning permission, like the rest of us, they then either occupy illegally or they move on.
So we can
and you've had 10 years to occupy illegally.
Listen, there are key moments in the history of every minority. For women, it was getting the vote. For black people, it was getting the vote, and maybe getting President Obama in office. For the gypsy people of Europe, who are 12 million people, stands like this at Dale Farm are the equivalent of what Gandhi and Martin Luther King and the suffragettes did. And anybody who believes in diversity, democracy and human rights should go down and join them next Saturday and stand up and make sure that this is the last time a council can dedicate a third of its budget to removing a particular...
Do the people of Dale Farm have the support of the other local people living litmus test.
Larry, we'll have to leave that question hanging in the air and leave Jake Bauer's historic claim hanging in the air too, because unfortunately we're out of time on that.